Hello everyone, it's Lorraine Hurst here from Healthworks, and I'm going to talk to you today about food, mood and immunity, what can help us with those things. I'm, as I say, from Healthworks, and this is a workshop for Stonewater Circles of Support, specifically for the Festival of Learning. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and if anyone joins us during this workshop, we will invite them in and involve them. But the recording is mainly of the presentation. So let me just share my screen. One second. So here we go. This is what you should be seeing, which is a slide around food, mood and immunity. And as they say, that just tells you who I am. And I've introduced myself. So moving on to our slide, this is just giving us a bit of background to why food and other lifestyle things are actually good for our mood. This very famous person called Hippocrates said this famous phrase: "Let food be thy medicine, and let your medicine be thy food." And this was back in 460 to 377 BC, before Christ, and Hippocrates was one of the first to believe that environmental factors such as diet, lifestyle and things were actually possibly affecting people in terms of phobias, mania, depression and paranoia, etc. So what have been the challenges for us in winter and the winter coming? We've got a lot of things going on around the cost of living crisis this year, and we're just coming out of the pandemic. So here are some of the things we know about people, and this is during the pandemic and also now. People tend to spend more time indoors, especially when the clocks change. I know for myself, I don't get as many walks, and there's a lack of fresh air, etc. We often have our central heating on, and that's dehydrating for us, for our skin, because it's taking moisture out of the air. We're then, as I say, not exercising as much. We don't maybe socialize as much with others. We might snack more. I certainly find the call of the snack cupboard when I'm working from home. And, you know, are we watching too much news? Certainly during the pandemic, that seemed to be quite a factor for people and having an effect on their mental health. There's also something called seasonal affective disorder, which is a type of depression that comes and goes in a seasonal pattern. It's known as winter depression because the symptoms, which include persistent low mood, lethargy, social withdrawal and lack of energy, are usually more apparent during the winter. And it's usually blamed on a lack of sunlight, which may be to do with vitamin D, most of which we get from sunlight. But it also slows our brain function and affects our sleep patterns. So if you're affected by SAD, that's something to bear in mind here, and that's perhaps something to get some help from either a health practitioner or your doctor. So what other challenges do you face, and how have these affected your health and well-being? Just something to reflect on when you're going through this process. Have you had any recent things happen in your family or in your own life, and anything that affects your own health and well-being? Just worth pondering on that whilst we go through this process and go through this talk. So what else affects our mood and what can we do about it? One of the first things to think about from a nutrition point of view is our blood sugar balance. Now, we think about this in terms of people who tend to have diabetes, but the reason many of us get what we call type 2 diabetes is because of we become insulin resistant, which this diagram shows really, really well. So this is all about how we consume food and what kinds of foods we consume them. This one shows, the green line shows a healthy blood sugar rate. The line along the bottom is time. So we want to keep our body in a healthy blood sugar range. So we've eaten a meal, and this is our remaining sugar from our previous meal. And then if we then, after a while, not with the meal we had previously, eat a sugary meal or a sugary snack, let's say we have a donut, in the middle of the afternoon, well, that can actually spike our blood sugars, that red line, and the sugars quickly absorbed into our bloodstream, causing that spike. And then the pancreas pumps insulin into the blood and attempts to bring the blood sugar back into the proper range. But then the pancreas overestimates how much insulin to pump into the blood and then causes the blood sugar to crash, or it can do. And this can be 30 to 60 minutes after having that donut or something. Now, this had lots of other effects I'll show you in the next slide. So this is a slide very similar. Those red lines now are showing the blood sugar, and the blue line, dotted line, shows a normal blood sugar range. So when we eat a sugary meal, this purple line, when we eat too much of it, not only is insulin triggered, or when we have a sugary meal that's very high in a meal that's very high in sugar, that can cause fat storage. When it dips below and goes down because of the spike and then the insulin effect, we can trigger stress hormones, which are cortisol and adrenaline, and this can also trigger cravings. So when we're craving things, it might be because we've been having this sugar. That's why it's called the blood sugar roller coaster, because we're having sugar and it's going up, and then we dip down and it's too low, and then we get cravings, and then when you want more sugar, and then it dips down again and we need more sugar. The green line shows when we've eaten a meal that's more balanced and we stay within normal blood sugar ranges. There are obviously some peaks and troughs, because when we eat a meal, that's what happens. But it's slightly less out of the range, and it's not causing this insulin spike. So it's also really important for our mood, because when we're on the blood sugar roller coaster, that can affect our mood in terms of getting these stress hormones and feeling low in blood sugar and having to have the sugar to feel good, and so on. And it can go the same for caffeine, so it's to watch that as well. So what do we mean by a balanced plate? Imagine this is a plate of food, and this is from the British Association of Nutritional Therapy, and there's all your whole grains are here. So where you would maybe have half a plate of potatoes or chips or your pasta, and that's the main part of your meal, we're saying here it should be about a quarter of your plate. So that's where you've got ideally your whole grain rice, whole oats. Try to limit regular pasta and bread, but if you're having bread and pasta, if you could have whole grain, that will help you even more to address this blood sugar balance. And then half your plate then is your leafy greens and salads and your other veg, and even your root vegetables are counted in your root vegetables and whole grains in this diagram. So, we're really trying to get quite a lot of vegetables into our diet if we can possibly. Obviously, there's a practicality there in terms of cost and also preferences, but we're going to talk about some of that in future workshops. So, and fruit, we should sort of limit that to maybe 1 to 3 palm-sized portions a day. This is for a regular adult. And then our dairy and protein. Our protein, we want to be having lean red meat or bacon occasionally, but mostly fish, poultry, eggs. Fish ideally twice a week if you can, and that's going to be a quarter of your plate, and limit your dairy to half a cup of yogurt or a small glass of milk a day, or a small amount, matchbox size amount of cheese. And then there's oils, using healthy oils as much as possible. So regular butter, raw nuts, seeds, avocados, things like that, if you can eat those kinds of things. And then we'll get on to drinks in a minute. And to be fair, another simple way of looking at this is to eat a rainbow. So this also will help us in our general health and well-being, because the different colours of our foods have different properties. And if we're talking about our fresh food, we've got the purple foods, which are good for our heart, liver, brain, and all of these are anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, which can be anti-cancer. So these are the benefits of these. So the green are good for our cells and our immune and our skin health, and our antibacterial. All the reds are for our gut, our heart, our liver, etc., and cell health in general. And then you've got greens. Sorry, that was yellows, the cell immunity and skin. The greens here is the skin, brain, liver, heart health. And we've got some other colours here, are eye health and arteries here, if we're eating these colours of the rainbow. So I think just all in all, a good approach to eating healthily. I think those are the orange ones there, the eye, heart, skin, veins and artery health. So just to give you an overview here of the different types of foods and the names of them, just so that you could look out for those, where to get some purple foods from. I think really if you just go by eye in the vegetable and fruit aisle, you'll see different colours, and try to put those into your basket when you're shopping or getting your food from a local food larder, for instance. Try to get these different colours. Yes, tinned vegetables do count, and frozen vegetables do count. Fresh vegetables are always preferable, but if frozen vegetables are what you have and you have available, then those are going to help you towards your eating some rainbow foods and feeling well. So we can't forget hydration when we're thinking about our overall health, and including our mental health and our mood. The government suggests 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. That's about an 8 fluid ounce. That's about 1.2 litres in total. And that tells you the glasses there. Anyone who's pregnant will need more. It's a different recommendation for anyone who's pregnant. Also, if you're doing any exercise or living in a hot or humid climate, when we had that really hot period in the summer here in the UK, then you would obviously be trying to drink more, because you'd be losing more in terms of sweat to cool your body down. But in general, that's the guidance for an adult. They're different again for children. You can find these recommendations on nutrition.org.uk if you want to find those for children or any other groups, pregnancy, etc. So that's a guide to think about. It does include tea and coffee and any drinks, but bear in mind that tea, coffee, alcohol, those are all dehydrating, especially alcohol. So it does include those, but where you can, to make sure you have just water, or water that has a little bit of fruit in. If you can't drink just water on its own, I drink hot water, for instance. That's because I like hot drinks with a little bit of ginger in it. But that's not everybody's taste, but those all day long for me. That's the hydration part. And then we're thinking about, the first rule of snacking, because snacking is something we like to do. We need to ask ourselves why we're snacking. What are we snacking because we're hungry? Are we snacking because we're bored? Are we snacking because we're having a drink? Are we snacking because that's what you do with your colleagues or your friends when you all get together? So have a look at this, and often we need to question whether we're thirsty when we want to snack. And for some people, snacking can be, sort of just marking time, it's 2:00, it's time for a snack, that kind of thing. And I love this little image. I want to listen to you about thinking about snacks. What can we do about that so that we don't affect our blood sugar and therefore potentially affect our mood through being on that blood sugar roller coaster? So here are some snacks we could consider to balance our blood sugars. You've got some nuts and seeds, any roasted vegetables that you might have made the last few days, and you could put them in a little bowl and eat those. Any raw veggies, steamed veggies, yogurt. Sorry, that's gone over on full fat bio yogurt is the line there. We say full fat bio yogurt because actually a little bit of full fat bio yogurt is going to make you feel fuller than a low fat yogurt. And the problems with the low fat yogurt is they often full of sugar or other fillers, which aren't as good for you. So we would probably say just have a small amount of full fat bio yogurt. Boiled egg, they're a great source of protein. They can always be made in advance, put in the fridge, and to have a boiled egg as a snack, it'll soon make you feel full because of the amount of protein in there. A little bit of homemade soup, nut butters to a bit of apple or pear. So if you've got any nut butters, peanut butter is inflammatory. So if you can buy something like almond or cashew nut butters, those are better. I know peanut butter is more common and cheaper, but if you can get the others, that they are slightly better for you. Homemade snack bars, we've got some recipes for those if anyone is interested. Popcorn made from scratch using olive oil or coconut oil. You can buy popcorn just as the corn, the little seeds, and it's really cheap, and you can put it in a pan as long as you're looking after it and with a lid on and hear it pop, which is great. That's why it's called popcorn. And you can make that yourself so it's not too salty. So you can just put a small amount of salt in. Half an avocado. I know they're expensive, but when they're going cheap, those can be really helpful. Small portion of smoked salmon, again, that's quite expensive, but it's just another example. But just a little handful of nuts in a bowl, or a boiled egg or a bit of yogurt, is always going to keep you fuller for longer if you need to snack at all. So here are some more recipes and ideas for supporting you with your food and mood, and what specific foods that there is some research around about their ability to support mood. So here's a recipe, which is oat and banana cookies, which is on the cooking-good.co.uk website. It's a great way to use up any spare bananas, any old bananas, and you will need about 2 cups of oats, 3 ripe bananas, about a teaspoon of cinnamon. I always put cinnamon in because it actually increases the sweetness. Pop your oven on, line a baking tray with some baking paper. In a bowl, mash the bananas until they're smooth. So use a fork to mash them so it sort of becomes a bit of a liquid. Add the oats and the cinnamon, or mixed spice if you've got that, or even nutmeg, anything like that, all in the same family will all make it taste sweet, just a teaspoon. And if you want to add any chocolate chips, any dried cranberries, raisins, lemon or orange zest, you can also add nuts and seeds if there's no allergies or not small children, so you don't want any choking risks. And then make them into a little cookie, put them on your palm, pat them down. They haven't got any baking powder in them, so they don't rise and they don't grow. So you need to make them into the cookie shape. So you make them into flat little round palm size, pat them down, put them on your baking tray and bake for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes until you're just starting to see a little bit of golden. They don't go, because they haven't got fat in them, they don't go as brown as most cookies do, but they're just set a bit, they look a bit hard. Leave them to cool. They're absolutely delicious, but you can keep them in the fridge because they're made with banana, so they will go off. So keep them in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, but they never last that long in our house. So go and have a look at the website for that one, banana oat cookies. If you just put banana in the search in cooking-good.co.uk, you will find that. So why bananas? Because they're high in vitamin B6, which help us synthesize some important chemicals in our bodies called dopamine and serotonin. And when we can synthesize those, they're the sort of happy, feel-good hormones. So that's why we talk about B6 and we talk about eating bananas. So there's also some sugar in there, but there's plenty of fiber in the banana. And when you're using 2 bananas to make all those cookies and you're only eating 1 cookie, you're having a small amount of sugar there. It's not a huge amount. But when the banana and fiber are there together, the sugar is released slowly into your bloodstream, and that helps with mood control. Obviously helps with the blood sugar, which in turn helps with the mood control. The green bananas, there's a lot about green bananas out at the moment, which is about how healthy they are for you. So the green bananas, which we don't tend to use for the banana oat cookies because you need to get the mushier, browner ones, and it's a good way to use up those. But if you have got green bananas, they have a type of fiber which supports good, healthy bacteria in your gut. And a good, healthy gut bacteria, your gut microbiome, as it's called, a healthy gut microbiome is associated with lower rates of mood disorders like depression, anxiety, etc. So it's good to have a healthy gut. Oats, so simple. So oats, again, coming back to the banana oat cookies, or generally oats, you can make overnight oats with oats, some milk or yogurt, and any kind of fruit you like, and some nuts and seeds, and you can put that in the fridge overnight and it's ready for breakfast time. So the fiber in oats helps slow the digestion of carbohydrates, allowing you to release sugar into the bloodstream to keep your energy levels stable. That certain studies have said that eating, in one study in particular, eating this kind of fibre at breakfast supported people with better mood and energy levels, and this may have attributed to more stable blood sugar levels. Oats are a great source of iron. So iron deficiency can make people feel tired. We're not suggesting everybody goes and takes iron tablets, not at all, but just to have a good source of iron in your diet is important, and oats will help with that. so that you don't have any kind of iron deficiency, which can include fatigue, sluggishness, and mood disorders. Studies have shown that iron-rich foods do experience improvements in their mood. So berries, what do we think about berries? They contain a lot of antioxidants and phenolic compounds, which play a key role in combating oxidative stress, which is an imbalance of harmful compounds in our bodies. They're also high in anthocyanins, which gives them the colour, the purple colour. And this is associated, eating food with the purple colour, eating a rainbow, purple in particular, is associated with the 39% lower risk of depressive symptoms in some studies. So nuts and seeds, back to those. They're full of healthy fats and fibre. They also provide a source of tryptophan, which is responsible for producing serotonin, which is the healthy hormone. These can include almonds, cashews. We mentioned peanuts here, but they are more inflammatory. Walnuts, pumpkins, sesame, and sunflower seeds are all excellent sources of fibre and healthy fats. I would take the peanuts out of that list there, I'm afraid. And these are associated. People who eat moderate nut intake are 23%, have a 23% lower risk of depression. And there are some other nuts here. We've got Brazil nuts, almond and pine nuts. They're a great source of zinc and selenium. And again, deficiencies in these are associated with high rates of depression, although more research is needed on that. But certainly, as we get older, particularly women in the selenium, but also men, I believe, we can lose these vital minerals, zinc and selenium. So to get those in our diet can be really helpful. What else is helpful for our mood and has some good research behind it? And some of these, you know, they're always worth a try, and you'll see what I mean. Green tea, it's got L-theanine in it, which increases the effects of something called GABA, and GABA boosts here we go again, dopamine and serotonin, helping to reduce stress, promote relaxation, and improve quality of sleep. So green tea, it may not be your cup of tea, but it's worth a try. Bearing in mind it's got a lot of caffeine in it, regular green tea, so be careful about drinking that too close to bedtime, or it may affect your sleep, but drinking it in the daytime, maybe up to and not past lunchtime, may be worth looking at, and you can get cheap sources of that. You can also get decaf green tea. I personally drink decaf green tea, and again, you can even get that in many supermarkets, including Aldi. Dark chocolate. So we hear a lot about chocolate and the benefits of it, and there's a talk from the Festival of Learning all about chocolate. So you can hear about that on the other video with Farah, and there's some research to show that they have some compounds. Dark chocolate in particular has compounds that help, similar to sort of CBD oils, and this similar to that, and these are linked to improving our mood. And also they have flavonoids that help blood flow to the brain, reduce inflammation, and boost brain health, which may support our mood regulation. So dark chocolate, well, where's my picture of chocolate here? I don't know, but no one, I don't know anyone who doesn't like chocolate unless they're allergic to it. So that's one to try. And also to think about eating, we mentioned our protein intake before, but to make sure you're eating fatty fish. So that's your salmon, in particular, your sardines, mackerel. Those kinds of fish have more the omega-3 in them, which is also linked to supporting our mental health. Coffee can be another one that's mentioned about boosting mood. Eating beans and lentils because they're high in the B vitamins and fiber and protein. And if anyone likes fermented food, if you like, cabbage or any other fermented foods, they are also really good because they've got a lot of probiotic and prebiotic properties, and those are really good for our gut bacteria. So back to that. So what else helps us with our mood? What else can help? We've talked about about blood sugar roller coasters. So our eating rhythm can be really important. It's very difficult for people who work nights, for instance, to eat a healthy diet. We talk about circadian rhythms and how we naturally want to sleep at night because it's darker and it triggers melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, and that our digestion rests and to some extent repairs itself during the night, and that people who work nights, having not been able to eat at normal meal times, and that can be tricky, but your eating rhythm to eat meals at particular times of day that suits you, that can be important, and to think about. Your food quality, so eating a diet that's rich in fresh fruit and vegetables, that can make a difference. So reducing, if you can, eating processed foods, which it mentions further down here. If your food contains then if you look at the ingredients in a packet of food and it's got things that sound like chemicals and you can't read the names of them, chances are that's what they are, and we want to limit the amounts of those kinds of foods that we're putting into our bodies, because they are containing chemicals, and our bodies may react badly to those in the long term. Not in the short term and not as one-offs, but if we're eating a diet that's high in processed foods, then we could be affecting our body negatively, because our body's got to try and process all those different types of chemicals and compounds. Artificial sweeteners, although we're encouraged to have those from a sugar weight management point of view to have less calories, they can actually spike our blood sugar and are again sort of our bodies can find them hard to digest and process. What we drink can affect our mood, which we've talked about. And also, if you have food allergies and sensitivities, some people say it's really changed their mood to remove a food that was causing them to have maybe some tummy upsets or headaches or that type of thing. It also then affects their mood. They feel better. That's anecdotal, but certainly that can affect some people. Again, we've mentioned protein and iron already, and anyone on a sort of dieting pattern, somebody's going on a restrictive diet, that can actually affect your mood. Or then if you come off the diet and then you're sort of eating everything in sight, that can also affect your mood. And eating too fast as well, because digestion starts in the mouth. So just some other things to think about. What will affect our general well-being and our immunity? In our gut, as we mentioned, we have these bacteria. They live there. It's normal. Many of them are very helpful to our gut. They help us digest our food, keep the gut healthy. But if we have an overgrowth of a particular bacteria, one of them that's not quite common for women is Candida, for example, that could be a problem in our gut and create an imbalance. Leaky gut is something that is thought about as when the lining of our digestive tract, which should be more like a tube and only certain things to pass from that tube into the rest of our body, is when that is compromised, and we actually get leaking of that into leaking of things and particles of food that shouldn't be leaking out of that digestive tract. And then the overuse of antibiotics. Now, if we're prescribed antibiotics and we need them, we need them. And certainly, you know, sort of they can save lives. At the same time, if we have had several courses of antibiotics, for example, because they are antibiotic, they will kill some of the good bacteria as well as some of the nasty bacteria in our bodies, and they will affect our gut because we take them through our mouths and take them orally to get into the body. So that's something to think about if you've had antibiotics. Sleep deprivation will also affect our immune system. Thyroid dysfunction, again, you need to get that diagnosed. It's not something we can guess about, but hypothyroidism is quite common, and but it can be tested by the GP and elsewhere, and that's going to affect your immune system, make you immunocompromised, as we hear a lot about, or we have heard a lot about in the pandemic. And the menopause can also affect women's and menstrual cycle can affect immunity, and any hormone imbalances, that's for men and women, and any genetic history we've got, or a sedentary lifestyle. So lots of things can affect our immunity. So what else can we do to support our emotional state and our immunity? Well, there are things like meditation and mindfulness, gratitude. So thinking about the 3 things that have gone well today. If you do that at the end of the day, it just sort of makes you feel happier about the day, even if other things haven't gone so well, but just what are you grateful for? And also to try to be around people who give you energy and support you fully. That can be terribly important, because when you're around people where you feel it's, you know, they sap your energy, or that's always a battle, that's not good for your overall emotional state or your immunity. Get creative. Is there something you want to do that's creative, like drawing, or taking up a hobby, or reading, or studying, or something like that? As long as it's not too stressful, then that may be something that will help all round. Exercise is very good for our immune system, especially yoga, dance. Do something that you enjoy. You know, don't think you have to go to the gym and spend 2 hours there unless that's your thing. I think it's important. Right, I've got something on the chat about Hanny is asking about green tea. Hi, Hanny, hope you're still there. There's lots of different types of green tea, just a regular green tea. Hi. I didn't see you, so see your image, but I'm glad you're there. Yeah, there are lots of different, you're asking about what's the best type of green tea. There are lots of different types of green tea, and you can get ones that say pure or organic. So maybe if you want to go for an organic green tea, I will just remember in a minute what the name of the make is of the green, the decaf green tea that I have is and I can't, it's not coming to mind, but an organic green tea would certainly be slightly better, because it's going to be of a slightly purer quality. And again, it sort of then goes up in price. If you, with green tea, you can get all sorts of green tea with other things, and you know, if you want something, go to a health food shop. If you want something a little bit more pure and with more antioxidants in it. Otherwise, you can just pick up green tea in a supermarket. Okay, so I'm glad you're here. And then we've got tyrosine is amino acid. Don't worry about that in terms of just to bear in mind, some people will take some supplements and things to support their immune system. Being of service to others, that's something that people find boosts their mood and their overall health and well-being. So volunteering, that type of thing. You're welcome. And then herbs and tinctures. Again, just adding herbs to your food can be really beneficial, because you're, in terms of you eating a rainbow and increasing the different types and range of food that you eat, just by adding some mixed herbs to your food, to your scrambled eggs, or to your gravies, or your sauces. One, it adds flavour and makes it smell wonderful, but also you're actually adding some extra nutrients as well. And being in nature, we're going to talk about that in a minute. And Hanny, if you want to suggest what strategies do you use for improving your mood, feel free to share that in the chat. I can see the chat there now. So let's move on. Now, what supports, what is our immunity? Let's have a little look at that. It's about our body's ability to ward off or somehow deal with any foreign bodies in our foreign substances and compounds, and we call them pathogens, in our bodies, so that they don't compromise our immune system and overall well-being. And people with low immunity are more likely to have colds, allergies, be sensitive to environmental things like chemicals, things like that, tiredness, or always run down. You know how you feel when you feel run down. Oh, and Hanny says she finds sleep helps her the most. Absolutely. Good quality sleep is proving to be really important in our immune health, and people are chronically not getting enough sleep, and often I think it's that going to bed earlier, no screens 1 hour before bed. But I don't know about anyone else. I think we've just started to fall into a habit. We're so addicted to our phones. We're doing catch up WhatsApp or catch up Facebook before going to sleep, or catching that person who does a video every night that's informative that you're watching. I think it gets really difficult to be disciplined to have good quality sleep, but the more we can prioritize it, the better. So Hanny, you're on it. If you're doing that for your sleep, for yourself, you're getting good sleep. Obviously stressors, we mentioned sleep here. Immunity can be lowered through things like, you've recently had a bereavement, or life's been stressful, you've had to move house, or there's been, sort of stress in the home, foreign travel even. I think we pick up bugs on the aeroplanes, and obviously in a post-COVID world, we're aware of this, even if we're not on aeroplanes, but trains and public transport. So I still wear a mask if I'm using public transport, only because of that, because I think I don't want to expose myself to things that might just get a hold. And obviously chronic stress, and of course during the pandemic we have been experiencing chronic sort of low-level chronic stress, if that can be expressed that way. Yo-yo dieting, which we mentioned, allergies, nutrient imbalances, if we mentioned that before. Too much sugar or caffeine, again, we sort of touched on that, but I think it's important to mention that that can affect our immune system. So too much caffeine, which is mainly in coffee, but you've got something similar in tea, although tea has sort of good properties as well, as does coffee. But it's bad if you have it in excess. You know, if you're having 10 cups of fresh coffee a day, you know, that might be a little bit too much. Genetically modified foods, that may also affect our immune system, and artificial sweeteners, which we've talked about in relation to food, mood. There's something that's getting a lot more press at the moment, which is something called forest bathing. So spending time in the woods, basically, may sound odd, because we've always talked about 10,000 steps and everybody measuring their steps with their mobile phone, or if they have got a Fitbit or something, you know, counting steps, or, you know, spending time walking, which is still very good and good for preventing arthritis and Alzheimer's. Forest bathing, so spending time in the forest, is linked to lower blood pressure, better heart rate, and reducing stress hormones, decreasing anxiety, depression, and fatigue. Also, anti-cancer natural killer cells are increased after spending time in forest or woods. You know, we don't have to be in a huge forest. It can just be in the small pocket park nearby, and that reduces inflammation in the body, which is helpful in combating any chronic diseases. You can get an app for your phone called NatureQuant, used to track your time spent in nature, similar to the steps trackers. And there was a study published in the Nature magazine, found that 20,000 people were more likely to support good health and well-being when they spent 120 minutes or more in nature. Apparently the 200 to 300 minutes, I was trying to work it out, 200 minutes is like over 3 hours, and 300 is 6 hours. That's a lot of time to spend in the woods, so to speak. But anything less than 2 hours apparently doesn't make a huge difference. So good long walk in the woods, or time spent sitting in the woods, is what we're aiming for. Maybe a couple of times a week. But that's the sort of overall, the 200, 300. So over a week, if you spent 200, 300 minutes, if you could, in some green spaces with trees, that's what we're aiming for. And what other sort of foods might boost our immune system? So we've got probiotics, and these are onions, garlic, celery, leeks, those kind of, that family of foods. They tend to be supportive of our immune system because they support our gut microbiome. We've got some different types of mushrooms, any mushrooms, but in particular reishi, shiitake, cordyceps, and maitake. Where you can get these, you can get them as separate mushrooms in the supermarket, but what you find is if you find mixed mushrooms, for the ones, all the colourful ones, I usually buy them when they're on special offer because they tend to be more expensive. That's where you can maybe get those mixture of mushrooms, or You can buy them from a health food shop in powder form if you want them. Seaweed is also really good, and you can get seaweed in a dried form, sushi nori it's called, and you can get that from the supermarket. So you can crumble that into your soup, so you can crumble that into your sauces, or add it to an omelette, which is delicious in an omelette. Seaweed is really good. It's got lots of properties. Garlic's mentioned there, that's a good probiotic, but you know, we talk about garlic to ward off colds and things. Well, that's why it's here. Ginger, one of my favorites, very good for the digestion, also very good for the immune system. Cayenne, that's cayenne pepper. Miso, that's a fermented, that it's used in a lot of Japanese cooking, and it's a paste usually. I think you can maybe get it as a powder and a liquid, but you can buy it as a paste, miso paste, and you can just add that to soups. Bioflavonoids. These are in citrus fruits, green peppers, lemons, limes, oranges, cherries, and grapes. And quercetin is another form of bioflavonoids, and that's really good for our immune system, quercetin, and that's found in broccoli, citrus fruits, red and yellow onions. So onions again in our probiotic category. Oregano oil is another one, and turmeric. So these are all things we can use to help us with boosting our immune system. So thank you very much for watching this. Honey, I hope you're still there. Very nice great. Very nice to speak to you. Thank you. I'll stop the record and maybe just have a quick word with Honey. But here are some contacts here for you. You can go and look at a community cooking website with some good recipes for cooking on a budget. That's cookinggood.co.uk. These videos and others that are part of this series are on our YouTube channel, which is Community Health Works UK CIC. That's the link there. It's a long one. And you feel free to contact me if you have any queries. And we do offer one-to-one support for people with their health and well-being through our circles of support. And we have more groups and taster sessions coming up in the near future. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll just stop the record now. Bye for now.